Welcome in to Outkick the Show. I'm your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope you guys are having fantastic Wednesdays. Wherever you are across the country, it's time for you to have some fun with Outkick the Show. Outkick the Show presented by Oddshark. Go to oddshark.com. I just used them for all my gambling picks. I'd encourage you guys to do the same thing. If you're trying to pick sides, if you want to go look at data, if you want to look at matchups, I go to oddshark.com every single time when I make gambling picks to check out all of the data associated with gambling picks. We're going 12-0 this week. Probably talk about them a little bit tomorrow, but they're up on the site outkick.com as they are typically every single Wednesday. Again, go to Oddshark. Also want to encourage you, thehomeloanexpert.com. Boys, girls, it's the holiday season. It's expensive. How about the likelihood that you are going to have to spend a lot more money than you anticipated on both holiday travel and holiday presents? Life gets expensive. Why not save money right now while you can? Get refied before this Trump tax plan gets through. Go ahead and lock in a great rate. Do it before the end of the year. Go to thehomeloanexpert.com or get pre-qualified. Or if you're looking to buy a new home after the first of the year, why not be ready with the perfect mortgage lender? Thehomeloanexpert.com. Get hooked up now. Thehomeloanexpert.com. And if you tell them Clay Travis sent you, you get a free year of Outkick VIP, as well as if you tell them that Outkick the coverage sent you as well. And finally, Alumni Hall right now, 15% off all their winter gear and everything else available on the website. Get set with your Christmas shopping, alumnihall.com, 15% off everything if you use the code OUTKICK and go there today, alumnihall.com, free shipping as well, alumnihall.com, free shipping and 15% off everything. All right. Boys and girls, I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. A lot to get to today. LiAngelo Ball and his claim, his arrest in China. We're going to get to that. I'm going to talk about why it's so absurd. Going to talk about the fake hate crime at Air Force. This is a big story which will not receive very much attention, although, as the most honest source in all of sports media, you know who will give it attention. It's me. And we're going to get into the college football playoff rankings that came out last night and what we believe is likely to happen as we go forward. But let's begin with LiAngelo Ball in China. Now, I've got three boys just like LeVar Ball. And if one of them ever got arrested for stealing something from anywhere overseas, I would lose my mind. But I want to hit you with several different facts associated with this story that you really, I think, are going to appreciate. First of all, they were in a Louis Vuitton store. Secondly, everything is on camera in a Louis Vuitton store. Thirdly, you are a large black man and other members of your basketball team in China. It's hard for people to stand out more anywhere than by being foreign in China. Certainly if you're foreign and you're like over 6 foot tall and you're black, or you're white and you're a member of a basketball team, probably walking around in your team-issued gear, it's hard for anybody to stand out more than these kids would have been standing out. And so all of this talk about all of the absurdity surrounding LiAngelo Ball, to me, begins with this point. How dumb do you have to be? How dumb do you have to be to go to a foreign country, a country where its citizens do not have full human rights, abilities, and totally where the rule of law typically does not apply, and then break the law? This is just dumb on a seismic level. Plus, LiAngelo Ball drives a freaking Ferrari. What does he want from anywhere that he can't get already? His dad just bought a $5 million house. His brother is the star point guard for the Lakers. He's at UCLA. Anything this kid wants, his 16-year-old brother drives a Lamborghini. Anything this guy wants, he can get. And so the idea that he would need to steal from a luxury retailer in China is so incredibly dumb. What I love about this story on several levels is, one, it happens at the exact same time that Donald Trump is landing in China. My fevered hope here is that we can get a Donald Trump and LeVar Ball actual conference, right? That we can get a press conference involving both of these guys, that they are going to show up and just drop knowledge like crazy. I'm telling you, Donald Trump and LeVar Ball are the same guy. There's no difference between Donald Trump and LeVar Ball. And I say that as a guy who finds both of them at times both endearing and infuriating. And probably that's kind of the same way you guys might view me sometimes, right? Both of them are convinced of their own brilliance. Both of them are convinced that everybody else is an idiot. Both of them are bombastic, outspoken, larger-than-life personalities, and they would love each other. But Donald Trump might as well walk out in a Big Baller brand hat, and LeVar Ball might as well walk out in a Make America Great Again hat, because they are twins. They're twins from different mothers. They have the exact same overall persona. And I'm telling you, a press conference starring both of them, maybe with the Great Wall of China in the background. Does the Great Wall of China come by Shanghai? I'm not an expert. I don't know how far away apart they are either. But they need to meet somewhere, and they need to be in the same place, and they need to have a press conference about this. I love the idea of Donald Trump managing to become the center of authority here. I think what's going to happen is the president of China, who seems to have a decent relationship with Donald Trump, is going to release the UCLA basketball players as a gesture of goodwill and political opportunity to Donald Trump, so that he has something to show for this foray that he's made through Asia. The fact that this happens at the exact same time that Donald Trump is landing in China makes me think it's almost a setup. I can see if you were designing a reality show and you had Donald Trump and you had the Big Baller brand, LeVar Ball, and you sat around with them, can you tell me this would not be the perfect script you would try to create for a reality show? LeVar Ball is over there filming his reality show right now. What better way to get reality show traction, honestly, for Donald Trump and for LeVar Ball than for LiAngelo Ball to get arrested for shoplifting, for all of the attention to rain down upon Ball and his family while they're overseas in China, and then for Donald Trump to get involved and for this to turn into a major international incident that ends with Donald Trump, oh, look at him, a hero, swooping in and managing to get everybody associated with this story so that he becomes the hero. This is, in fact, a total reality show setup. It's a proof that 2017, you can't make anything up. Now, I want to hit on this. The state of California passed a law that banned state-funded travel to 8 different states. Among them, and I'm probably not going to get all 8 states right, Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Dakota, Missouri, Kansas, and maybe one other, maybe Alabama. And that state-funded travel is not allowed. And I talked about this a little bit on the radio show this morning, but I want you to focus on this. That state-funded travel is not allowed. Gonna have to block a loser. If I happen to look up and you're complaining about the topics, you are gone forever. You will never be allowed to come back in to this show again. I am Clay Kyle, and the truth of the matter is, if I happen to look up, this is my show. I am judge, jury, executioner. It ain't a democracy. It's a clayocracy. If you give me an opinion about a subject and you don't like the subject and you try to dictate what I talk about, you're dead. You're not allowed to ever watch the show again. You can have an opinion, but if I happen to look up and disagree with it and think, is that the opinion that a pussy would have? And the answer is yes, then you're gone forever. Period. I don't even read most of the topics, but if I happen to glance over and see somebody say it, they are dead. Headshot indeed. Clay Kyle is out, ready to kill. Just be aware. You might be happy. One moment you're here, next moment you're not there. Freedom of speech, it don't exist in my show, baby. It don't exist. I'm a First Amendment absolutist, but guess what? You don't get to show up on my porch and tell me what to talk about inside my house. This show is my property. This show is my fun. You're just a little dancing boy who gets to show up and occasionally put a couple of words up. And if I happen to look over at the dancing boy over there and I don't like it, guess what? You're banned forever. That's the truth. Deal with it. All right, so California bans travel to all these different states. California bans travel to all these different states because it disagrees with the state laws that have been passed there. Okay? The truth of the matter is this. I'll give you an example. All of these state statutes have to do with discrimination, and they aren't inclusive enough. Okay? It doesn't make any sense when you actually dive into it. I'll tell you why California has banned state fund travel to Tennessee. My wife is a guidance counselor. Before she got to retire because I got rich, she worked in a high school advising kids. And so as a result, the law that is an issue in California is this one. And I actually think this is a good law. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree with this law once you hear what the law is. If you are a counselor in Tennessee and due to religious conflicts over whether or not homosexuality is a sin, you are allowed, if you are being sought, if somebody is seeking counseling to you over a homosexual related issue, you are allowed to refer them to a better counselor that does not have religious objections to treating them. That seems to me to be an entirely appropriate law. But let me tell you why. And you guys react to that. You guys react to that. I want your opinions. Everybody come in and tell me what you think about that. Seems totally fair. I agree with the vast majority to everybody out there. You wouldn't want, if you were gay, you wouldn't want to get bad advice from somebody because they couldn't get past your homosexuality. And if you're incredibly religious and believe that homosexuality is a sin, you should not have to be in the business of providing somebody counseling about what you believe is a sin. That seems totally reasonable. I'll give you an example. I'm a lawyer. Lawyers are allowed, if we don't have the ability to represent somebody, to refer that client to somebody else. And there's a long list of reasons why I don't have to accept you as a client. Every single person that walks into my law office, if I have one, I'm not obligated to represent. If I think I can't do a good job of it, if I think somebody else will do a better job of it, the referral system is a big part of the entire legal process. And so that seems to me to be a perfectly acceptable law. California has banned state travel to Tennessee because they believe that law is discriminatory. They believe that even if you're religious, you should have to give advice to a gay person, and it's discrimination if you suggest, no, maybe you should go to this counselor instead. And as a result, the state of California is not allowed to contract to play games against teams from the state of Tennessee. This means, for instance, that you couldn't actually have a home and home right now between Cal and Tennessee. You couldn't have a home and home between UCLA and Tennessee. You couldn't have the home and home that was just played between UCLA and Memphis. They allowed exceptions for cases that existed, for contracts that existed beforehand. Because somebody's going to come on and say, what about Cal played at North Carolina? What about Tennessee? What about Memphis played UCLA? The reason why it happened was because those contracts pre-existed this law. Now, theoretically, it also means all those schools can't go out and actually recruit there either. So this is a total absurd law. Why does it matter? Why does that matter in this context? What in the world is going on here? Why does that matter? I can't even tell what's going on here. Why in the world does that matter? Okay? Why does that matter? All right, hold on. I'm going to have to kill some people. Hold on. Let me block some people. That motherfucker's dead. Block City coming. All right. And why does that matter? You might be saying, why are you talking about this law? Why are you talking about California banning all these people? Because UCLA and the state of California doesn't ban travel to China. I want you to think about this for a minute. How absurd is it that 8 states in the United States, California bans state-sponsored travel to, but they do not ban travel to China? So UCLA goes over to China to play their season opener against Georgia Tech, and California can pay for that, but everybody else cannot be allowed to travel to those 8 states. So this is talking about egg on its face in a major way. The state of California is so hypocritical that they're okay with their state-funded dollars being paid to send people to China to play basketball, but they wouldn't allow China, which is a rampant human rights violator, and where LiAngelo Ball could theoretically be facing 3 to 10 years in prison for shoplifting, but they wouldn't allow LiAngelo Ball and his teammates to travel to Tennessee, North Carolina, Texas, Missouri, Kansas, or any of those other states. How unbelievable is that? Probably the only place you're going to hear anybody pointing out the extreme hypocrisy of this, but as a result, these UCLA athletes could go to jail for years because of the criminal justice system that exists in California. Now, this is actually really funny. How about the American justice system being pretty damn fair here? Pretty damn unbelievably good. When you think about it, everybody out there's like, oh, American justice is so unfair. Oh, I hate America. America sucks. All the motherfuckers saying that don't live anywhere other than America, and most of them have never left our borders. Because if you have ever traveled abroad at all, you thank your lucky stars the minute you return to America and bend over and kiss the ground, whether you're in Mexico, whether you're in some Caribbean shithole, whether you are in much of the rest of the world. You have no protections. Almost no protections under the vast majority of laws in this world, which is why I get so fired up when I hear all these losers out there protesting. You want to talk about injustice? China could put a motherfucker in jail for 3 years for walking out of a Louis Vuitton store with a purse he or she didn't buy. Welcome to the real world. I don't hear anybody talking about that, although I do look forward to figuring out how ESPN is going to end up blaming a white guy for everything that happened with LiAngelo Ball and China. Just wait for it. Somehow MSESPN is going to find a way to blame a white guy for what happened in China. We had nothing to do with it. No white people involved at all. Somehow a white guy is going to end up blamed. Just wait. Somebody on MSESPN is going to go on and they're going to find a way to blame a white dude for this. It's 100% true. I don't know who it's going to be, but they'll figure out a way that there's going to be a white guy who's to blame for this. Might be me. Somehow I might end up being blamed for a robbery from Louis Vuitton in Shanghai. Oh, that's what you have in Clay Travis's America. It's what Clay Travis wants to do. So that is the LiAngelo Ball claim and situation in China. That is why California is full of shit. That is why it's such a hypocritical situation. And everybody out there deserves to be ridiculed for the way this situation has unfolded. All right. Did you hear about this? You probably heard about the initial story. Did everybody hear about the initial story of the Air Force students who were subjected to vile, racist hate crimes when people wrote on their boards? Their boards, the dry erase boards outside of their dorm rooms. This is an amazing story. Everybody talked about it. The head of the Air Force gave this huge impassioned speech about how they wouldn't stand for racism. They conducted an investigation. Do you know who was responsible for it? A black guy. One of the black guys who was living in the dorm room, a future Air Force football player who was in prep school. If you're not familiar with Air Force and Navy and West Point, a lot of times they take kids who are not quite ready to enroll in the military academies and they give them a year of prep school to prepare for the schooling that they're going to have at Air Force. A black kid wrote racial slurs all over his dry erase board and set off huge protests at Air Force, set off a cataclysmic viral event, and everybody was like, oh my God, look at what's happening in America. There's all this racism, and he was to blame. It was totally made up. News just came out yesterday afternoon. This comes recently after a made-up hate crime at Kansas State. This comes recently after a made-up hate crime just outside of Kansas City. This comes after Michael Bennett, Seattle Seahawks defensive lineman, made up a hate crime associated with the Las Vegas Police Department. And as I'm continuing to investigate an alleged hate crime involving LeBron James having a word scrawled on his gate in a negative fashion. This, my friends, is an epidemic. And I'll tell you why it's happening. It's because we have so overvalued being a victim in this country that everybody wants to be a victim in the youngest generation. Used to be, long time ago when I was growing up, nobody wanted to be a victim. Nobody wanted to be blamed for being like a victim of a crime. Your goal was to avoid victimization. More than anything else, everybody out there, you're like, I don't want to get beaten up at school. I don't want somebody to take my lunch money. I don't want somebody to treat me badly because of who I am. Your goal in life was to avoid being a victim. We taught kids all the time, if a bully does something to you, you know what you do? You punch him in the mouth and you stand up for yourself. Don't be a victim. Don't let the bully win. This is like all I heard my entire life growing up. Basically, we taught kids, don't be a pussy, right? Stand up for yourself, rely on the fist at the end of your sleeve, make people respect you if they otherwise won't, right? This was the number one response. Somewhere along the way, we have created a society where kids now want to be victims because everybody cuddles around them and says, oh, you poor baby. We have created such a feminized society that the goal of kids these days is for everybody to feel bad for them. Oh, you total poor pussy. Did somebody say something mean to you? What would you like me to do? Would you like me to cup your balls and palpate your grundle? Would you like me to give you a blankie and a goddamn bottle so you can suck on your thumb while you nurse off a warm milk? This is what we have created. Moreover, there's not enough racism out there. Fake overt acts of racism have to be made up so that people can become victims. This kid wanted to be a victim because he wanted everybody to say, oh, you poor, poor kid. I'm so sorry that somebody said something mean to you. He so desperately wanted the attention from the media and his classmates that he made up a fake hate crime so that people would treat him well. This is what we have kids aspiring to now. People feeling sorry for them. It's a race to see who can wallow in the most empathy, who can create the largest shitstorm of pathetic victimhood. And as a result, the media, which desperately wants all of these stories to be true, covers them all the time as if they are 100% true. And if you ask whether or not it might be true or not, starting with Mizzou, you're the racist. You would be blown away how often I get called racist for saying things like, are we really sure Mizzou students should have been protesting? Wait a minute. When Michael Bennett says X and you ask questions of him, that's unacceptable. You have to believe somebody based on their race or their gender, and if you don't, you're racist or you're sexist. Same thing happens with domestic violence claims. Domestic violence is awful. Racism is awful. I wish none of those things ever existed. So is rape. Nobody hates rape and racism more than me. I hate rape and racism more than anybody who's ever existed in the history of humankind. I abhor both. I hate rapists and I hate racists. But that doesn't mean that every single time somebody says they were raped or every single time somebody says that they were the victim of a racist hate crime, they're telling the truth. And when you don't aggressively question somebody for their story and you accept it as fact, you are failing in all aspects of the world. I use this example all the time. In To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch aggressively questions Mayella Ewell on the witness stand about whether or not she was raped by a black man. When he's questioning her, that would be called victim blaming now and victim shaming. You know what it's also called? Getting to the fucking truth. If you are doing an adequate investigation, you don't show up and coddle somebody's balls and hold their hand and tell them that you got tissues for them. You aggressively question them and figure out whether or not they're telling the truth. And if these guys are getting caught in lies, they should be prosecuted. I want these guys to go to jail. I think if you make up a fake hate crime that in itself is a hate crime because you are trying to create division in this country by making up acts of fake racism, and you're also delegitimizing actual racism because you are the boy who cried wolf. You should go to jail. That Air Force cadet, he should go to jail. That Kansas State guy who claimed that his car got defaced, he should go to jail. Michael Bennett, he should be charged with making a false complaint to the Las Vegas Police Department. All of them should be prosecuted and charged and sent to the fullest extent and aggressively prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We got to stop letting these guys off with warnings. Oh, we caught you in a lie, and we spent hours and thousands of dollars investigating your fake crime. No, you go to fucking jail. And now we're going to turn around and we're going to prosecute you because we know 100% you're lying and you have wasted the time and resources of this community. Moreover, you have created more division in this community with your attempt to make up a fake racial crime so that you get sympathy and attention. It's unacceptable. It should be unacceptable, and it should be prosecuted, and we should prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. So, what I would say to this is this. The media exposes themselves with the way that they cover these stories. I'm one of the only people who takes a step back and says, wait a minute, let's consider the actual facts of the case. Let's try to determine not whether somebody's telling the truth based on their race and their gender. White guys are liars. Black guys are telling the truth. Women are always honest. Men are always liars. That's the way the media covers this story right now. Telling you, Lord's truth, you know this is true. Used to be if a black guy says something, he's not telling the truth because he's black. Now if a black guy says something, he's telling the truth because he's black. Those are both forms of racism. Used to be a woman wasn't listened to in a court of law. Now, if a woman says something, it means it's true, and the man is lying. You can't allow race or gender to predispose you to believe something because it happens to correspond with your worldview. The media wants racism and sexism to be endemic everywhere because that's the worldview that they have. Therefore, anytime a story like this happens, the first thing they believe is, oh, it must be true because racism exists. You have to, and I learned this in law school, you have to learn something important. What matters about every case is not the race or the sex or the gender or the sexual orientation of an individual involved in a case. It's three things. Law professor told me this. The facts, the facts, the facts. Nobody goes to the facts. Nobody actually looks at the facts. Everybody in the media looks to see whether or not the facts, in quotation marks, support their worldview, and then they believe it. That's the truth. Everybody in the media wants racism to be everywhere, and so they believe Michael Bennett. Everybody in the media wants racism to be everywhere, and so they believe the Air Force cadet who makes up his own fake racist allegations. And here's the sad thing. The racism story of Air Force was spread virally in a wave. Tens of millions of people covered that story and read about that story. Tens of millions of people read about that story. A small fraction of that number will actually read about the truth. Think about how scary that is. So the result is you have a ton of people out there who believe their worldview has been confirmed. Oh, look, even in the military, even in the Air Force, there are people just walking around writing racist things on boards everywhere. It's a totally made up story. I'm telling you right now, there is no truth to it, but the vast majority of Americans will still believe the first story because it went viral to an extent that the second story did not. Here's the other thing I would say. You should be publicly shamed when you're caught like this. If a white Air Force cadet had been caught doing this, his name would be everywhere. He would never be able to get a job again. You know that's true. If he'd been writing racial slurs on that board, his name would get out, his picture would get out, he would never be able to get a job again. Why is this Air Force cadet who made up the fake race crime, nobody even knows his name? Nobody knows what he looks like. He gets out of school. He goes wherever he wants. No actual lasting consequences for starting a tremendous hoax which threw thousands of people in the Air Force under the bus and falsely identified them as racist. How is that fair? That's a great example of black privilege. You get to falsely scream racism. You get to cause a massive investigation into who was responsible for these racist words. And then when you're caught and found out to be the culprit, what happens? You get to skate with no punishment whatsoever. Same thing happened to the dude at Kansas State. Same thing happened to Michael Bennett. Fake racism doesn't cause anybody any problems except for all the people who have been falsely accused of being racist. Thank God we've got all these video cameras to prove how many of these guys are complete and total liars. Finally, college football playoff rankings are out. My name is Clay Travis. College football playoff rankings are out. And I believe that potentially we are headed for a disaster. There are 7 teams right now that really legitimately could end up with strong claims on a playoff berth. Let me give them to you. Alabama 13-0 or 12-1. Georgia 13-0 or 12-1. Notre Dame 11-1. Clemson 12-1. Miami theoretically 12-0. Could happen, right? We've got 13-0 Wisconsin. We have got 12-1 potentially Oklahoma or TCU, and we've got 12-1 Washington. It's possible that we end up with 7 different teams with legitimate claims that they should be able to make the college football playoff. How do you make a determination of which 4 should get in? I'm going to keep beating this drum because it's the truth. We need 8 teams in the playoff. We need 5 automatic conference champs getting in, and then we need 3 wild cards. That's the truth. Now, my gambling picks are out. In the 3 big games, I'll give you who I've got. I've got Oklahoma over TCU minus 6.5. I have got Notre Dame minus 3 over Miami. I have got Georgia minus 2 over Auburn. And I want to give you this parlay again. I absolutely love this 3-game parlay. Again, when I give you a parlay, I'm telling you to bet it individually, but then also sprinkle some money on the 3-way parlay here. Try to have a hottie threesome, as my friend Kelly in Vegas says. 3-way here, the 3-way to play, all right? We need the under on Florida at South Carolina, 45.5 right now. I love the over on Kentucky and Vanderbilt, 53 right now. And Mizzou minus 11, which is my blood bank guarantee over the Vols. All 3 of those are going to hit. To remember this, I'm going to hit that 3-game parlay for you, and then you're all going to say, thank you, Santa Clay. Thank you for making the world a beautiful place. And I'm telling you right now, all of you watching and listening to this, we hit that 3-game parlay, you better all sign up for Outkick VIP, bitches. I am Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. I'll be live tomorrow, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports Radio. Go listen, Sirius XM Channel 218, XM Channel 202, 250 AM FM stations nationwide. Friday, guess who's joining us? Lane Kiffin. I'm also on FAU minus 5.5. I am Clay Travis. Hope you guys have spectacular Wednesdays. I'll see you tomorrow.